countries that are poorly managed lose their currency privileges. And what we can see is that at 100 countries in the world are all losing their currencies. Everybody's basically, the Venezuelans not going to have a currency. The Zimbabwe don't have a currency. Any currency that collapses more than 20 to 30% against the US dollar eventually fails. So people throw that over and they go to the dollar. The euro is effectively pegged to the dollar. Most of the other currencies are pegged to the dollar. So you've really got two currency systems. You've got CNY, and even the Chinese peg their currency to the dollar, right? If you look at it. So you've got the first world currency system, then you've got the developed world currencies. They're all failing. So in El Salvador, they didn't have a currency. They used the US dollar, and then they're at the mercy of two things. One, the money changers are basically stealing 10 to 20% of their money when they move it back and forth. If I charge you 10% commission every time you move your money to a family member, I mean, how many times do you get to do that, right? So that's a problem. And the second problem is now I'm storing my money in the US dollar. It used to lose 0.5% a month, and now it's losing 2% purchasing power a month because the Fed's printing money. So how do you crawl out of that abyss? And I think the president of El Salvador realized that what you want to do is back your currency or back your country with an asset which is appreciating in value. So Bitcoin's been appreciating 120% a year every year for a decade. The S&P is up 12% a year for a decade. So Bitcoin outperforms the S&P by a factor of 10. It outperforms gold, which is up by maybe 1 to 2% a decade. So it's outperforming gold by a factor of 50. Look, here's the big idea. That Bitcoin's not just an asset, right? It's the perfected apex property of the human race. If you have $1 billion and you want to give it to your grandchildren, are you going to buy land in California, a building in New York, $1 billion stack of gold? Are you going to buy $1 billion of Apple stock? Are you going to buy $1 billion worth of art, diamonds, commodities, corn futures, oil? What are you going to buy for $1 billion that'll be here 100 years from now? And if you think about it really hard, you conclude that every other asset class is more easily impaired, seized, confiscated, taxed, or regulated. And of course, some are unpractical. There's no way that 5 billion people in Africa and Asia are going to be walking around with Apple stock on their mobile phones. That's not happening. How do you pay for for anything with Apple stock on a Saturday afternoon in South Africa? Right? That doesn't work. And so, yeah, you could try to use a currency, but now I've been in business 20 years. I can't do business in Nigeria after 20 years because if you want to do business in the fiat currency, you have to have your bank deal with your central bank, deal with their central bank, deal with their bank. Can't do it on the weekend, and you can't do it because of Foreign Corrupt Practices Act in Russia or Nigeria or whoever. And so how do you get 8 billion people trading with each other through 100 million corporations? You need a protocol. What is the protocol? Bitcoin. Bitcoin is Michael, an open monetary protocol to link 8 billion people and 100 million companies with one another in the 21st century. Let's say that I wanted to create a non-sovereign store of value. I have $1 million. I want to save it for 100 years, and I don't want to trust anybody else with the money. I can't put it in a bank. Every single person in Argentina had 90% of their US dollars and their Argentine pesos seized overnight by the government 20 years ago by edict, stroke of a pen. It wasn't hard. So I can't leave it in a bank. I can't store it in a currency because the banks can steal it from me. I can't save it in a stock. The company might not even exist, and the CEO or the board might dilute it. I can't put it in land because I can't move the land, and they could tax in Florida. They tax you 2% a year on the land. You lose your land in 20 years. So I buy gold. Now that's the traditional idea, but the problem with gold is that every year gold miners produce 2% more gold, and then I can't carry $1 billion of gold through an airport, so I have to put it in a bank. And then 95 of the top 100 cities in the world, 95 or more of them seized all your gold in the past 100 years when the regime changes.
Before we continue, help us by smashing that YouTube like button and subscribe now to this channel. This shows the algorithm that you value the information, and it helps us spread this message. Sharing is caring. Please like and subscribe now. Thank you. And now let's continue.
So how do I fix that? So this guy Satoshi invented digital gold on an open protocol monetary network. And we call that Bitcoin. And the way it works is I define 21 million gold coins. I dematerialize them in cyberspace. I make them infinitely divisible by 100 million units each, and that's called a Satoshi. Then I make it impossible to ever make any more than 21 million. And then I give you a protocol where any computer can send the coin or the Bitcoin to any other computer without a middleman. And I make it possible for you to take personal custody of your asset. So if I want $1 billion worth of property, I can carry it around in my head by memorizing the passphrase. I can hold it on a hardware wallet. I can hold it on a mobile phone. I can put it to any computer in the world. Then I can move the $1 billion to any custodian in the world in a few minutes for a pittance. So the idea is, if I took gold and I said, you can't mine any more gold, check, that would make gold more valuable. And if I said, you can't use it for jewelry, there's no jewelry being melted down into gold, that makes gold more valuable. And if I capped it at 21 million and I numbered each of the gold coins, that'd make it more valuable. And if I made it infinitely divisible, and if you could authenticate it in a split second with a mobile phone, that would make it more valuable. And if I made it programmable with a protocol, and I made it possible for a computer to make 1 million transactions a second and talk to 100 million other computers using Intel semiconductors, that would make it more valuable. So in essence, we created programmable gold on a network. And then what's the last twist? The last twist is you make it decentralized so that there's 10,000 different computers, or maybe even 100,000 different computers running the software at the same time with an identical copy of the ledger, so that no company, no CEO, no government, no regulator can meddle with it, the protocol. So it is literally, it's like a virus released into cyberspace, a living life form. You can't stop it without turning off every computer on Earth at the same time, and you have to keep them turned off forever, right? You can't kill it. And so the idea of Bitcoin is apex property for the human race. And for the first time in the history of the human race, if you have $1 million, you can hold $1 million in your head, walk through a border, send it across the world, take custody, or transfer it to any custodian, or prove that you have it in a split second. And you can't do that with anything else. That's what Bitcoin is. If the US dollar is losing 20% of its purchasing power a year, which is what's happening right now, the dollar is collapsing against scarce assets. The reason the NASDAQ or the stock exchange is an all-time high isn't because the companies are more valuable, it's because your currency is weak. And the currency keeps collapsing against scarce assets. That's why we have inflation. That's why houses in the Hamptons or Palm Beach cost more. That's why the average home in the US costs 15% more than it did 12 months ago. If El Salvador is going to prosper as a country, they need to invest their assets or invest their money in something which isn't going to collapse. If you're holding $1 billion of US dollars, and if the US Fed doubles the dollar supply, they stole half your money from you. That's what's going on right now. So what El Salvador
Why is that not obvious to everybody? It's crazy.
It's because part of the world is rich and privileged. And so if you are wealthy in the US and Europe, and you have a large stock portfolio, you think you're a genius because your portfolio is up 32% or 47% year over year, and you made wise investment decisions, right? And then you think, oh yeah, I see that everything's going up in price, but you've already got your house, right? If you were trying to buy a house in the Hamptons, it went up in price 45% year over year. If you already own the house in the Hamptons, you think, well, this is great. My house is more valuable. My stocks are more valuable. I'm a genius. I'm a good investor. And so if you're asset rich, and that's 10% of the world, you just feel like everything's great. On the other hand, if you're a dentist working for $137,000 a year, the price of early retirement and the price of all those things you ever wanted to buy is pulling away from you. There's something wrong when people say we're going to pump up the price of assets to protect the economy, because what you're doing is you're inflating the price of assets for everyone that works for a living that wanted to buy those things.
What to do in such a situation? Inform yourself and keep your financial education strong. We from the Compact Group offer our loyal subscribers a free educational portal with first-hand monetary, financial, and economic knowledge. Enter our invite-only Insider Club by clicking the link below. You will get access to first-class information far earlier than the rest. We have prepared a special deal for all our members where you can access a giant pool of Robert Kiyosaki's financial wisdom for just $1. To find out more, simply click the link below and join our Insider Club absolutely free. But there is more you can and should do. Build up several streams of income. More and more people realize that they have to take their future in their own hands, but they don't know how and where to start. We from Compact offer our Insider Club members unique opportunities. Strengthen your financial muscle and get the edge. Click the link below. Become part of our free Insider Club. No financial obligations. But there's one important thing you have to know. You have to become active. So do it now. Become active and see you on the other side.